Okay, in this lesson, I'm going to go into more detail about QiGong and yoga practice. So, is your QiGong and yoga practice promoting superior health and vibrant longevity? So, that's what I'm gonna share with you today. So, in this lesson, you'll discover why over 90% of people who practice QiGong and yoga experience less than 10% of what QiGong and yoga has to offer. So before I get into that, first I want to make sure that you know that QiGong and yoga, they both are sciences. They're ancient sciences, and they were developed for several thousands of years. So it's not a some kind of religious practice or something made up. I'm trying to think of the word, but most people don't realize that it's actually they're both actually based on ancient science, and it's developed scientifically, and there is a specific way of going about progressing in yoga and qigong. And that is why when you look at the ancient yogic systems and qigong systems, you'll see there are several different systems out there, because each teacher or master or school developed it differently, a little bit differently. So the foundation is more or less the same, but how they experience progression or progress the system or the qigong or yoga, they progressed it differently. And so that's why you'll have different schools doing things a little bit different, because how they progress was based on their own testing and analyzing and putting into practice. And one of the basic foundations for something to be scientific is that you must be able to duplicate it. Meaning, so if one is able to do something and only they're able to do it, but no one else can do it, then you can't really claim that it's scientific. So one of the foundation things is that when you develop a scientific method, then you have certain steps that you implement, and then you share those steps, the formula or the protocol, with others, and then they can follow those steps and get the same results or similar results, something like that. So there has to be some way that it can be duplicated, and there has to be some type of formula or protocol that that you can share with others, and when they implement it, they get the same results or similar results. And with authentic yoga and qigong, what you will find is that the different schools or different teachers, they have a specific process or steps or a formula that one needs to follow, and when they follow those steps, then they experience improvements or progression. So because most people don't know that qigong and yoga is a science. It's not modern science. Modern science is trying to analyze it, but it's based on ancient science, which is a little bit different than modern science. So here is what qigong science and yogic science can do for you. So you hear this a lot. So it can speed up healing. Right, so speeds up healing. So if you're practicing yoga and you're practicing qigong, in theory it's supposed to help you speed up your healing. Right. Also, it assists with resolving health issues. So in qigong and yoga, when you were suffering with a health condition, you were prescribed certain exercises, certain qigong or yogic exercises, to help resolve specific different health issues. So in addition to changing the diet and working on your emotions and taking certain herbal supplements, etc., you're also prescribed certain exercises for specific health issues. So it also helps with resolving health issues. It's the ultimate biohacking science and technology. So today is very big today out there with biohacking your brain, biohacking your memory, biohacking your sleep, biohacking your productivity, biohacking your learning. They have different supplements for biohacking, different gadgets. But yogic science and qigong science, they're the ultimate biohacking science and technology. So almost everything, if not all things that today that they talk about how to biohack the different things, I know it's a big trend right now, can be found in qigong science and yogic science. And with the practice, you can do all those different biohacking things just by practicing a comprehensive form of yoga or qigong. Harmonizes the emotions. You can achieve mental clarity, so it helps with achieving mental clarity. Supercognition, super immunity booster. It helps you become super resistant to sickness, illness, and disease. Become super healthy. So this is beyond average health or ordinary health. Super vibrant, super fit and strong. Also, stress becomes a non-issue. So I know there's a big thing out there about stress management and how to manage your stress. Well, to manage your stress takes a lot of energy. And why would you want to manage something you don't want? And why would you want to use up a lot of energy? So what if you can achieve a state where stress becomes a non-issue? Meaning things that were stressful for you are no longer there. And with qigong science and yogic science, you can achieve a level where stress is not an issue. Because if you have to constantly manage stress, it's going to drain your energy. It takes a lot of energy to do that. Age super well, super intuitive, have control over your mind. So that's a big one. So instead of the mind running you're in charge of your mind. So you become the commander of your mind instead of your mind running you. Significantly reduce your food consumption naturally. So people who achieve a certain level of in their yogic practice or in their qigong practice, naturally they reduce the amount of food. So imagine if you can reduce your amount of food naturally to only eat around 1/3 that you usually eat and still being super healthy. So with qigong science and yogic science, that could happen. Significantly reduce your sleep quota naturally. So instead of sleeping 8-9 hours a day, what if you can cut it down to a lot less than that? So what else would you be able to do? And this means that your quality of sleep is significantly improved, and your body is still functioning in a very high level. So be in a state of awareness. So what's important about being in a state of awareness is that most people are in a habitual state. Everything is habitual. So being in a state of awareness is a lot more powerful. So now, generally they say if you have bad habits, incorporate good habits, and that's okay. But even a higher level is to be in a state and not in a you want to get out of being in a habit. You want to be in awareness, and when you're in a state of awareness, you're going to do things. You have more control of what you want to do, and you can shift whenever it's needed. But even if you have good habits, because it's habitual, that means you're being controlled by your habits. When you're in a state of awareness, you're not being controlled by habits anymore. Live consciously, so it's very similar to with being in a state. If you're in a state of awareness, you're living consciously. Versus the opposite of consciously would be living habitually, even though if you incorporate good habits and living with good habits consciously is a higher level than that. You become very resistant to external negative influences. So a lot of people get influenced by, the negativity around them, whatever it may be. You become very resistant to that, and you can achieve extraordinary capabilities, and much, much more. So these are the things that some of the things that when you look at the Qigong science, yogic science, that they say that when you practice this, you can achieve many, if not all, of these things. And the reason why they're saying it because scientifically they have discovered that this is what happens, right? They've tested it out, and this is what you can do. Is with Qigong and yoga, you can master your own body, master your emotions, and master your mind, right? And your psychic, etc. Master, if you go even higher levels, master the energies inside you. That's the highest level. So if you're practicing Qigong and yoga or yoga, and they're telling you that eventually you can master all the energies inside you, then life can become very, very easy for you, and your health, you can be super healthy. All the things that I mentioned, you could achieve. But the sad case is that over 90% of people achieve very, very little of this. Or sometimes they get a small glimpse of some of the stuff, but they can't maintain it. So I'm going to share with you why that happens. Okay, so let's start with yogic science. Let's analyze your practice, right? Because this is for you. You want to know when you're practicing Qigong, what do I need to do in order to improve? So in yogic science, when you're practicing yoga, there are 8 foundations you must have. And these 8 foundations you must have if your goal is to achieve superior health, vibrant longevity, and extraordinary capabilities. If that's not your goal, then don't worry about how you're practicing if you have any of these 8 foundations. But if your goal is to achieve superior health, vibrant longevity, and extraordinary capabilities, you must have these 8 foundations in your Qigong practice. So the first thing, and they're not necessarily in order, but I'm going to try to put them pretty much in a specific order, but some things it needs to be simultaneous. So but the first one is increase your lower Dantian Qi. So in Qigong science, they say that the Dantian Qi, which if you look at this image here, you'll see there are 3 bright dots or lights. The one that's by the pelvis, the bottom one, in the middle, that is the Dantian. So say Dantian Qi is your vitality. It's the Qi there is what gives you the health. It's the foundation. That's where the Qi starts to go into the rest of the part of the body. So the low Dantian Qi provides Qi everywhere else in your body. So when you're doing your daily activities or anything that you pretty much do in your life, even when thinking, whatever it is, any kind of process you're doing, it starts to drain the Qi in your lower Dantian. So what you want to do is rebuild it. And so in your Qigong practice, you want to specifically restore or replenish the Dantian Qi. So so in your practice, you want to make sure that as a foundation that you're building up your Dantian Qi, you're increasing it, specifically, the lower Dantian. The next one is you need to expand the storage area of your lower Dantian. Okay, so let's say the average storage area is 10 centimeters, right? So if that space is 10 centimeters, that's the average. As we get older and older, that space starts to shrink. So if the storage space starts to shrink, it means that you cannot store too much there because there's no space anymore. let's say now you have 8 centimeters, so you're missing 2 centimeters, and 2 centimeters is a lot. So what you want to do is expand the area back, because naturally it shrinks as we grow older. Now, as we grow, the other thing that happens is we also can expand it beyond. This is what we call extraordinary. So let's say if the average is 10, we can expand it to even more, let's say 12 inches, centimeters, right? I'm just giving it the number for illustration purposes. Each person is going to be different depending on their body size, etc. But so let's say the average is 10, you can go beyond that and expand it to 12. So when we were talking about going into superior health and vibrant longevity and extraordinary capabilities and achieving a lot of the extraordinary stuff that you can do with in QiGong, one of the things that you can do is increase the space, let's say from 12 centimeters to from 10 centimeters to 12 centimeters. So you want to expand it when it's shrinking, and if it's normal, if you can expand it even more, then your foundation, your qi, your energy reserve, your foundation, you can have a lot more energy there, and that will help you spread that energy everywhere else. So, and then the more lower dantian qi you have, the more vibrant and the more healthier you'll be. So those things. Okay. So what happens when you increase the qi in your lower dantian? So basically, you can say goodbye to washboard abs. So if you are in the fitness field or or bodybuilding field, and you're incorporating QiGonging into your practice, if you have increased significant amount of lower dantian qi in the in your dantian qi, if you increase significant amount of qi in that area, what's going to happen is that your waistline is going to expand a little bit. Not a lot, but it's going to expand. Which means is that area cannot be flat or sunken inwards. That area is going to be protruding a little bit, because that area is going to be filled up with qi. And that means all the way around. So from the front to the side and the back, because it's just the whole circumference of that area of the lower dantian is going to expand. So having washboard abs is actually a contraindication for building up a qi in the lower dantian. Okay, so the other thing that you want to make sure is that you store qi in your membranous tissues. So the membranous tissue is basically a tissue that wraps around the organs inside your body. So anytime there is some kind of layer or separation in your body, in your organs, even in your cells, it's wrapped around by this membranous tissue. And that membranous tissue is where qi gets stored. So we talked about the lower dantian, and then the next place it gets stored is in the membranous tissue. And what's good about it is because then the qi nourishes that area, that organ, gives it information that it needs, and also protects it. So it can protect, it's a way where it protects the organs inside your body, the tissues inside your body, right, and the cells inside your body. So you want to make sure that when that one of the things that you're doing when you're practicing your QiGong is that you are filling up the membranous tissue with qi, and you're storing it there. Okay. So what happens when you store qi in your membranous tissue? No more muscular definition. You'll see some, but not much. And here is why. Let's talk about the layers of the skin. There are 7 layers. So each layer is covered with membranous tissue. So what's going to happen is when you feel that store qi in the membranous tissue on all those 7 layers, your skin is going to become thicker. Right? It's going to feel like it's thicker than before. So if you want to have ripped abs or ripped musculature, right? You trying to make the skin as thin as possible. You get rid of all the water weight that you have there, all the fat that's in there, right, around the skin. So in this way, the muscles you can show very clearly. But when you filling up and storing qi inside the membranous tissue, inside those layers of the skin, below the skin, then it becomes thicker, and then you cannot, you won't be as defined as before. So what happens when you practice QiGong without storing it into the qi into your dantian and membranous tissue? So what happens when you're doing that? So one of the things that you'll see people when they practice QiGong is like, they say, if I miss one day, I feel really, really crappy. And that, when you're looking at it from the perspective of a science, the more you do it, the more improvement you should be experiencing. And so that means there's a buildup. So if you miss one day, you shouldn't feel crappy. You should feel fine, right? You may not feel as good as you felt the other day, but you shouldn't feel crappy because you're moving up. The other thing is if you don't store qi in your dantian and membranous tissue, is that eventually you'll hit a plateau. You won't progress anymore. Now, what happens specifically to the qi when you're not storing it anywhere, and specifically is the dantians and membranous tissue, is that they dissipate. This leaves, so it doesn't stay in your system. So self-analyzation. If you have been practicing QiGong for a significant amount of time and you have washboard abs and ripped muscles, then you are not storing qi in your body effectively. Okay, so whatever that significant amount of time is in your practice, and depending on the protocol that you're following or whatever it is, but I would say if you're doing it for several years and you still have ripped abs and a washboard, ripped abs and ripped body, muscle definition, be it male or female, then you are not storing it effectively in your system with QiGong. So that's a way you can analyze yourself and see, is your practice, this is a clear-cut way to see, are you getting the most out of your QiGong practice? Do I still have ripped abs and ripped muscles?